Joining us live in studio, political analyst Stephen Lawson, who is always welcome here every Wednesday. Good morning, my friend.
Hey, good morning, Mark.
I don't really need, everyone's been talking about Kimmel, but I want to talk about the Charlie Kirk Memorial because we haven't spoken since that happened on Sunday. To me, the standout moment was Erica Kirk's just. I don't know how she had the courage to do that in front of 63 plus thousand people in that stadium and overflow stadiums, to have the composure after her husband was executed like that. What did you think of the memorial? And does Erica Kirk have a future in politics? Because an event like that can usually boost someone into superstardom.
Yeah, what a touching tribute, first of all, to Charlie Kirk and the outpouring of support, Mark. Thousands and thousands of people filling an entire stadium, overflow sections right outside of the stadium. But what struck me is just the incredible amount of grace that she had on that stage to less than a week after your husband was assassinated, the father of your children, to get on the stage and move the audience with such poise, but grace to be able to stand on that stage and say, I forgive his shooter.
Yeah, that was powerful.
And what an important lesson for all of us, right? Like that is the pinnacle of just poise and grace through such a tragedy, that I think that should be an example for all of us, both sides of the political spectrum. Yes, we need to tone down the rhetoric and, of course, violence. We've got to root that out. But just grace and accepting people for who they are and viewing them as human beings, even in the midst of tragedy, was a really striking example.
So Erica's taken over as the CEO of Turning Point, right? Obviously, the grassroots organization that Charlie founded and really became a king-making kind of organization. Turning Point credited for getting J.D. Vance into the Senate, getting J.D. Vance on the ticket, and getting the young vote out for President Trump in the last presidential election. So obviously, the Turning Point Foundation, very important politically. But again, I see a moment like that, and I see, a poised, attractive, well-spoken person with obviously deeply held political beliefs. Like that's a political candidate. Am I wrong thinking that Erica Kirk could run for whatever office she wants at this point?
She could, yes, certainly. She has the microphone now.
Yeah.
She has her husband's microphone, and I think obviously she's very led by her faith. That is very important to her. So I think she's going to listen to whatever direction God points her in. But yeah, it could go a number of ways. She could run for office. She could certainly, or I think what is more likely in the short term is that she carries on his work and she bolsters this movement. There's been such an outpouring from across the country of new Turning Point chapters and this momentum, and people are waking up to this moment in our country's history. And I think her legacy could be carrying on that torch and making Turning Point even bigger than Charlie could have ever imagined. And that would be such a touching tribute and a legacy to leave.
Political analyst Stephen Lawson, live in studio here in the Mark Aram Show. We didn't get a chance to talk about this last week, but we got some new polling numbers. A couple of massive races here in the state of Georgia. Senate seat, governor seat. Qantas Insights poll, head-to-head, John Ossoff, Mike Collins tied at 38%, 23% undecided. Ossoff against Buddy Carter. Ossoff leads by 3. Ossoff against Dooley heads up 42-35 with 22% undecided. Large chunk of undecided, but it looks like just from this snap poll that Mike Collins is best situated to defeat John Ossoff at the polls.
Yeah, absolutely. We've gotten a little bit of polling in this race. There hasn't been a ton. But yeah, obviously the big takeaway, still lots of undecideds, but I think both in the primary election and now we're seeing in the general election, on the data front, it appears that Mike Collins is best suited to take on John Ossoff next November. It's, as you mentioned, Mark, lots of undecided. It's going to be very interesting to see how that shakes out in the primary ballot. You mentioned the general ballot. Mike Collins is at around 25. Buddy Carter is at 20, and Derek Dooley is at 7 or 8. It's going to be interesting to see. We've talked about on the show, can Derek Dooley buy enough time to kind of build his name ID and get back up there? It obviously got the backing of the governor,
Yeah.
which is hugely important. So that's going to be one to watch. But yeah, really interesting to see that Mike Collins is the best suited general election to Jon Ossoff. It also tells me about Jon Ossoff that if he's sitting at 38, he's clearly got some work to do on his side. That people in this state are not necessarily sold on what he's selling. He's got some work to do as well too. So
I mean, we've got some time, obviously, but just looking at one more poll question was asked, best GOP candidate to defeat Ossoff. This is Republicans voting only. Mike Collins, 25%, Buddy Carter, 20%, Derek Dooley, 7%, 48% unsure. Just anecdotally, I have not heard on my show any ads from Dooley, Carter, or Collins. I've heard some Ossoff attack ads from political action committees, but shouldn't the ball be rolling already, getting their name out and getting the message out?
yeah, I mean they are. I think all three of those candidates right now are laser focused on raising money. We've talked about on your show, Mark, the quarterly reporting, fundraising reporting for these federal races. The end of the third quarter is coming up next week on the 30th. Those reports will then be made public the following week. I imagine the White House and lots of folks in D.C. are going to be looking at those very carefully to see which candidates can emerge, break out, raise the money necessary to get on television, to get on radio, and start advertising and getting their name out.
And I haven't, and again, maybe it's just I'm not looking or listening in the right places, but that I'm talking about Senate ads. I haven't heard any or seen any governor's ads yet, either from either side, Democrats or Republicans. Why is everyone sitting on their hands? I mean, obviously they have money raised already. Why are they playing prevent defense instead of getting out there and getting the name out?
Yeah, it's a good question. Obviously, right now they are in fundraising mode. We are over a year out from the election, but to your point, Mark, the primaries are coming up in May. I imagine that dynamic will start to shift at the beginning of the year next year, and when we turn the calendar page, I think that's when you're going to start seeing those ads really hitting the airwaves with these advertising blitzes to start to get their name out and build that ID, because as you mentioned, that runway from January to May comes and goes very quickly. And so especially in an age that the media is so fractured, right? Building that name ID and getting out in front of voters on the airwaves is going to be really important.
Stephen, we got bills to pay here, man.
That's right.
We got fourth quarter bonuses to hit. We need those political ads here on the Mark Aram Show.
That's right. Vinny needs a bonus.
Vinny needs a bonus. Finally, I was off yesterday for the Jewish New Year. State Senate special election yesterday. What happened?
Yeah, this is a special election with the resignation of State Senator Brandon Beach to go serve in the Trump administration in the Treasury Department. There was a vacant seat there, and the contest was between a Democrat, Deborah Shigley, and a Republican, Jason Dickerson. It was a runoff election following 4 weeks ago, that's the special election. There were some Democrats that were thinking that this could be their moment. This was a 70-30 Republican seat that Brandon Beach held. But Shigley 4 weeks ago got 40% of the vote. So they were seeing the tea leaves thinking, hey, maybe we can flip this seat.
So you're telling me there's a chance.
So you're telling me there's a chance, only to find out that came crashing down yesterday with the election results. Jason Dickerson, the Republican, won with 61% to 39% for Shigley. But Democrats can take that potentially as a Pyrrhic victory and that they overperformed in the seat. And I think that could be, if you're a Democrat, indicative, hey, maybe we've got a little momentum heading into the midterms. Obviously, Republicans are controlling every lever of government. Maybe we can make some inroads. But again, a special election is very, very different than a statewide general election next November.
Stephen Lawson always overperforms here on the Mark Aram Show, online at dentons.com. Stephen, great to see you, my friend.
Great to be here as always,
Have a
my friend.
fantastic week.